What's going on, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to yet another brand new installment of the Dads, Not Always, on Wrestling. And of course, since I am running my mouth to begin this show, you can tell that it is not a wrestling show. As a matter of fact, we are here underneath the bright lights as the sun sets on Chavez Ravine, Dodger Stadium. We're going to be discussing our top 10 favorite baseball players of all time. Now, we originally were going to go through this, and I know Jeff was thinking about stats and all that kind of stuff, pulling the stat boy Mikey route. But we talked about it a little bit off camera, and we were like, that just makes it too stuffy, kind of. Like we want to be able to talk about this passionately. So we're going to go with our favorite baseball players of all time. And no, we are not going to be talking about Benny the Jet Rodriguez, Rick Wild Thing Vaughn, Dottie Henson, or Little Henry there from Rookie of the Year. No. We are here to talk about real baseball.
Yeah, buddy.
Love it. I got to make that clear because, man, you hear the Renegade talking about baseball, and you're probably expecting, Major League, the Natural, the Sandlot, League of Their Own, Field of Dreams. No. We are here to talk about legitimate Major League Baseball. And when it was first brought to me about this topic, I kind of was a little bit hesitant. I'm not going to lie. Because baseball has not been my thing, we'll say since the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
Since around the time that this man over here was maybe turning about 5 years old.
Well, mid-80s is generous. I appreciate that. Mid-80s, I was turning 2. But
I said mid to late. Mid to late. Okay. You were born in 83, right?
Yes.
So, 87, 88. Like, by the time the decade was over, I definitely was no longer a baseball fanatic.
Right.
So that just gives you a little bit of context here, because by the time I was becoming a teenager, this guy was really starting to become a baseball fan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I was already moving on.
Yeah. I mean,
to the next thing. By that point, I had started to become a bit of a basketball fan, listening to Chick Hearn and the Lakers on the radio.
Oh, there you go.
I was kind of, done with baseball at that point. I wanted something a little bit more fast-paced, and I started to get into Magic, Kareem, James Worthy, AC Green, Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
In a few years, the debut of Shaquille O'Neal playing for the Orlando Magic. So I had moved on at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was really tough trying to rack my brain, but it just really came together easier than I thought. This should be a fun one.
I'm noticing more and more that the topics one of us or the other feels is going to be a taxing thing on our brains tends to just right out like it's one of those like effects, like you hit one thing, all of a sudden it starts rattling off in your head. It's wonderful. I'm so grateful that's happening because it makes the taping flow go so much better.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And I think that you guys out there watching can see us seem to have more joy and fun out of those topics. Right? Therefore, you enjoy the episodes more when you can tell that we're enjoying it more.
Yeah, see, that was part of the biggest reason I took that break between Rumble and Mania, because I just felt like I wasn't having fun. I wasn't enjoying it. And you can't do anything in this world, especially when you're treating it as your profession, if you're not having fun. If you're going to your job and it feels like a job, you're not going to have fun, then it's going to be even worse on your soul and in your brain.
Exactly.
So That's how I felt about it, which is why I took the
So,
break. But shows like this is where we get fun, and I'm gonna enjoy this list. I'm gonna enjoy doing this. I'm probably gonna surprise a few people. I'm not gonna lie, because it's not all Dodgers Angels, believe it or not. So I will say that right off the
why
top.
don't you go ahead and take us away? Give us your starting lineup, if you will.
There you go. So
Your
number
10
10
favorite
is a
baseball players.
is a favorite for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was one of my grandmother's favorite teams growing up, the Atlanta Braves. Now, I would have, had there not been so much controversy about Barry Bonds, he'd definitely be an honorable mention for me at this point, because my grandmother loved the Giants, and growing up in LA as a non-Dodgers fan for a good chunk of my life, I loved Barry. But there's just so much stink on at this point. It's like, it's, I mean, looking back retrospectively, I don't think I was as big a fan as I thought I was of Barry. So I just kind of whatever. But this guy, in spite of playing in Atlanta, which I was never a fan of myself, I enjoy watching this guy play. He was fun. I love me some Chipper Jones. He's just a character. He's still a character to this day when he pops in on our television screens. Just a great joy to watch. He's a tremendous ball player, and he was one of those guys that was the epitome of the Braves. And I'm so glad he was around for as long as he was around, because he was, as I said, a joy to watch and a tremendously good athlete. So Chipper was fun. Number 9 is the only person on my list that was involved in baseball in any capacity before I was born. So let me just be clear on that right now. And I'm sure he'll be on your list at some point, because how can you not have a favorite baseball player list at any capacity without the Sultan of SWAT, the great Bambino himself? And I know I picked a Yankees uniform. You know what? Get over your damn selves, folks. He played himself in a Lou Gehrig movie that was prior to the Yankees, damn it. He's going to be Yankees uniform on my list. Because I love that movie. I know JJ does, because he's the one that showed it to me in the first place. But Babe Ruth, I mean, I am a card-carrying, bleed-out red and yellow Hulkamaniac. They call Hulk Hogan the Babe Ruth of wrestling, because Babe Ruth is Babe Ruth. And honestly, I really didn't know much about Babe Ruth until I saw the John Goodman movie, which is very romanticized, even though there is some dark shit in that movie. He wasn't exactly the greatest person of all time, to say the very least, but he was a superstar.
Yes.
He was one of those guys where whenever I watch the History of the World Championship DVD thing that the WWE produced, and the gentleman that hosted the Wrestling Museum is on there, he talks about that, Frank Gotch was as big a star back at the turn of the century as Babe Ruth, as, Lou Gehrig, as, those athletes of the day, and same with Strangler Lewis, those guys were around at the time where you had to be a presence to be at the star power of a Babe Ruth, of a Lou Gehrig, because they were so larger than life. The fact that Ed Strangler Lewis was able to be in a conversation in a room and get as much recognition and prestige as Babe Ruth shows you exactly where wrestling was in the 20s and where Babe Ruth was. And the fact that he held Lewis in such regard is awesome for us wrestling fans. Let's not kid ourselves. But Babe Ruth was Babe Ruth. That's just long and short of it.
Yeah.
He was a superstar before the term superstar was really a popular word to use. So number 7 is probably going to surprise a lot of people. Number 8. Probably going to surprise a lot of Dodger fans, because he was not playing in this city for a good chunk of his prime of his career. But then he came to Southern California and still played great. Then he moved to Chavez Ravine and actually did some pretty cool stuff last season. Albert Pujols. Albert's fun to watch. He seems to be a great guy. And yes, he played in St. Louis, which I live in LA. My family comes from Cincinnati. We don't like the St. Louis Cardinals very much. We just don't. But
see, and 90% of my family is in Missouri. So
yeah. Yeah, if you are in the same division as the Cardinals and you don't live in Missouri, you pretty much want them to piss all up a rope. You really do, because they're so good and it sucks. And Albert was one of the best the Cardinals ever had. He really was.
Before you get too far away, I did not have this on my honorable mentions list. I don't have a picture of him ready, but bringing up the Cardinals takes me back to Ozzie Smith.
Oh God, yeah, I love Ozzie. He's great.
Another one that I just love watching.
Yeah. Ozzie and Pujols and maybe a couple others were able to let me look past the Cardinals uniform because, again, Cincinnati roots, LA born and bred. No, Cardinals are the bad Cardinals. But Pujols is awesome. What's great about Pujols is when he came to Southern California, I forget which player it is. Forgive me. Oh, no, you know what? Jock Peterson's brother, who is a special needs young man, loves Albert Pujols. So every time there was an all-star game or a freeway series or whatever, Pujols made it a point to hit the locker room or hit the crowd or wherever Jock's brother was and made time because Pujols is an awesome person. You know, again, you can wear a dirty sweater, Corey Perry, and be a shithead on the playing field, Corey Perry, and still be a decent person off the ice, like Corey Perry allegedly is. I've never met Corey outside of the ring, so I couldn't tell you. I have seen Pujols outside of the field, solid dude, and one of the best to ever play the game. Definitely one of the best hitters of all time.
Okay.
All right. I think so starting with that point, it's everybody except one is an Angel or a Dodger at some point or another. Number one, there's only one that was not a Dodger at any point in his career. So let me just get there. So number 7, again, this is going to be a little polarizing for people because a lot of people still like him. A lot of people do not like him at all anymore. Mr. Pizza. And again, if you were a Dodger fan in the early to mid 90s, you love Mike Piazza. You wanted Mike Piazza to do all the things all the time because he could hit a ball down into the freaking freeway from the Chavez Ravine because that's how awesome he was. Once he left, yeah, screw him, right? Because the guy went to the Mets and he talks shit. You know what? He's a hell of a ball player, though. You know, I mean, I really just that awesome of a guy, that awesome of a ball player, you know, it's hard to argue with the success he had. When he was here, he did. And another thing with Mike, the problem is that he had a lot of injury issues throughout his career, not just here in LA, but throughout his career. So he really was never able to get off of the blocks like he should have, I feel.
Yeah.
Had he been able to stay healthy, had he been able to keep his mouth and his body in check, I think he would have easily been in the talks of the greatest of all time, which is crazy to think that he wouldn't be, but he's not because of his mouth and because of his body, you know, wearing out on him a lot of the time. So, but I happen to like Mike. I know my brother adored Mike Piazza when he was here. I haven't had a chance to talk to Patrick about Mike since, you know, Patrick's really been, you know, hardcore, like Dodger all the time to the point where he named his dog Dodger. But I know he liked Mike Piazza, and I know I liked Mike when he was here. So
Mike was a good one. Mike is one of those that, like, after I faded from baseball and kind of got more into the Showtime basketball, like I was talking in the beginning of it,
right?
Piazza was somebody I paid attention to.
Yep.
You would hear the name enough so your eyes would, okay, who is this guy?
Right. Yep.
He was definitely someone that I noticed even when I wasn't a huge fan.
He was a guy that brought eyes to the game.
Yeah. I compare Piazza to, and this is going to be a weird comparison at first, but I compare Piazza to George Strait and Garth Brooks. Even during the times when I wasn't listening to country full time, I'd still keep my ears tuned to what they were putting out.
Yep.
Because I always loved their stuff.
Exactly. Good.
So when I would start hearing about Piazza and a few others there during that era, keep my ears out for it, and I'd kind of tune in from time to time and see what they were doing.
Exactly. All right, let's see. 9, 8, 7, 6. Number 5, 4, 3. Yep. No, right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 6. Excuse me. All right. Yeah. Number 6 for me is another Dodger. Matter of fact, he's the last person that was on my list solely as a Dodger.
Okay.
Let me just go there with that. Fun guy to watch. I think he's still one of my mom's favorite Dodgers. My mom's all-time favorite Dodger was Steve Garvey, and she loves Steve. I just didn't get a chance to see Steve play. I do have that. There's a picture somewhere in our. Actually, it's hanging in our house of when Pete Rose did whatever hell milestone he did, and Steve Garvey's sitting there, not a uniform, but he was on first base for that picture. Like, we love Steve. Steve's a great guy, and I'm my mom's gonna be like, how come he doesn't know this? Because I never saw Steve play. Oh, Mom, I know Steve's great. I love Steve, but it's just not really there for me. But I did see this guy play, and I think he's great. And I love Eric Karros, and I think everybody that ever watched Eric Karros play loves Eric Karros. And if you don't like Eric Karros when you watched him play, who the hell were you watching exactly? Because freaking awesome first baseman, hell of a hitter when he kept his eye on the ball. You know, I mean, granted, he had a few too many strikeouts for my liking, but again, Eric Karros was one of my favorite people to watch, favorite people to go watch at Dodger Stadium when I went down to Chavez Ravine. Just a great baseball player and a great guy. That's the thing with these people. Most of these people on my list that are in the uniform of Southern California, I've had a chance to meet, which has always been an experience. I haven't met Pujols yet, which I would like to if he ever does, if he retires soon. But like, I met Piazza, I think once. It was a while ago, and he hadn't become a shithead yet, which is good. Met Eric a few times. I met Eric more in the celebrity coming back for the old timers game stuff than I have when he actually played for the Dodgers. But he's great. He's awesome. I love Eric, and I wish we could have had more time with him in LA, because I think that him not being a ring holder as a Dodger is criminal, legit criminal. So this next guy, however, is a ring holder as a Dodger and a ring holder as an Angel, technically. Mr. Scioscia, Mike Scioscia. Again, grew up watching him catch for the Dodgers. Was definitely intrigued when Disney hired him to take over the reins of the Angels. Got to the friggin' dance and won. Tell you what. Now, granted, that's our only World Series trophy to this day, right, Mikey? And matter of fact, there's the hat that Mikey wears so famously. There it is, right there on Scioscia's bean.
And Mikey wasn't even a fan of them until they won that series.
Yeah. What's so funny to me, looking back at this moment on the right with Scioscia with the pennant or the trophy, Disney announced the sale that day. They were selling the team. It's like, what? What are you guys doing? Like, they just won the World Series.
It's one of those Sell things all the tie, baby.
I get, but what's funny is they sold them. It wasn't a couple, like, they didn't sell the Ducks till a couple more years later, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it was like they got the Angels to the dance. Technically, they got the Ducks to the dance. They just couldn't complete the set because it's the freaking Ducks and they suck. And they lost to freaking Detroit. No, I'm sorry, not Detroit. Who beat them in 2003? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, and I know you hate to admit it, they still got a cup before us.
They did, but
yes, we have more. 2 is greater than 1.
Yes,
but they still got there before us.
But the point I was going with that is that Disney took both teams to the dance, but then they sold the Angels. Like, literally, they announced it at the Isers at the freaking podium with the trophy back there, going, "Yeah, we're going to sell the team." Michael, I like you, but what the shit? But it was.
You got to sell while the demand is high, and I mean,
I reckon. But it was one of the greatest Dodgers of all time that got in there, which I think is great and ironic as hell.
And I mean, you want to talk about the story of a backup who made it bigger than the star.
Right?
Scioscia was Yeager's backup.
Yes. Which is so funny to me thinking about that, looking back now.
And then And then that's part of why I'm so hard on somebody like Jonathan Quick.
Yep.
Is you look at his backups and you look at where they could have gone had they been given that chance.
Agreed.
You know,
again,
I still laugh at the fact that Martin Jones goes to San Jose and is in the Stanley Cup playoffs that year.
Has he won a cup yet, though?
That doesn't matter. Don't hate. Don't be
Sharks
that guy.
As long as the San Jose Sharks don't win a cup, I will continue to spread the poison northbound. No cups for San Jose. 0. I will let it poison myself. I don't give a shit if I die from the poison. I don't care. All right. Back to positivity.
Yes.
Number 4. And again, people be like, he's only number 4, Jeff? Really? Well, yeah, because he's still such a baby. He's still a little baby Mikey Trout boy. Like, he's still got a long way to go. He's the highest paid dude in the land right now. Let's not even front. And again, he's another one. And again, he's still very young in his career. I'm not even going to lie about that. But he is very much like Karros for me. The fact that he doesn't have a World Series ring is criminal. He is, right now, here it is, he is the best player in the game right now. He has been for a number of years at this point. And he's not a world champion because the people that are playing on the field in front of him or the people that are hitting behind him can't frickin' back their shit up. It's terrible. It sucks. And to be fair, you know, the pitching mound has not been consistent at all. The pitching staff in Anaheim is just a hot mess. And it's been a hot mess since Weaves left, even before Weaves left. It's terrible back there. And if they ever get their pitching rotation down and they get a solid 1 through 9 lineup hitting, watch out. World champions. Because of him and Ohtani. If those two guys stay healthy in the same year, which it didn't happen last year because Trout got hurt really early and was out all year. If those two stay healthy and the pitching rotation gets the shit together, look out. Because Trout's the best in the game right now, and he's fun to watch. I picked this picture because his hair isn't quite so batshit at this point. His hair now, oh my God, dude. I prefer the baldness I have now over the crap shoot he has on his head right now. Good Lord. You making how many millions of dollars and your haircut looks like that? God damn, Michael, have some respect. Anyway, there's off my soapbox about Trout. There we go. Number 3, another Angel, who's also an Astro, who is also a Met, who is also a Ranger. The best pitcher I ever saw. Period. End of sentence. He's the greatest pitcher I ever saw play. 7 no-hitters, ridiculous amount of wins. Done whoop that ass to that guy that rushed him on the mound. Which I think is one of the greatest scenes in baseball history to this day. I love watching that shit. Even though he's playing for Texas at the time, what are you gonna do?
Ryan is a goat when it comes to pitching. Like,
I love Nolan. He's great.
And I'm not going to dispute you as far as the best pitcher that I ever saw play.
Right.
But for me and my era in watching, I would put him right up there with Valenzuela and Hershiser.
And again,
I would definitely put him ahead of them,
right.
But like same level, baby. Those guys were amazing to watch pitch.
And the thing is, you were an LA boy that has memories of going to watch Fernando play and going to watch Oral play on the regular. I didn't go to a whole lot of Dodger games as a kid just because I was at Angel Stadium more often than I was at Dodger Stadium. So, but I got to see Nolan pitch as an Angel. I don't remember it, but I was there. But just seeing him play anytime in his career, he was the greatest pitcher I ever saw.
So it was your Michael Jackson concert. You were there.
No, because I actually saw. Well, no, I actually did see him play at Angel Stadium, just not as an Angel. I saw him later when he was playing with Texas. I actually do remember seeing him pitch, just not as in the Angel uniform. Unfortunately, yeah, Michael Jackson. That's the I mean, granted, I can't think about it. It's a year and a half old. What the fuck am I gonna do? Try to freaking make my brainwaves bigger? No, I can't bitch about it because there's nothing to bitch about the Michael thing. I was still there, right?
Yeah.
Number 2 is one of those like a sentimental thing, and it's the last of the Angels and Dodgers rotation for me. So number 1 is the last non-Angel or Dodger for the record.
Intriguing.
But I can't not root for this guy. Nolan Ryan was the best pitcher I ever saw. Jim Abbott was the most intriguing player I ever saw play the game. The guy has one hand. You can't see it in this picture, although his blurry left hand looks like his nub on the right hand, the way that I captured that picture. The glove, he's wearing a glove on his right lack of hand. He would throw the pitch and literally switch the glove to his arm that had a hand on it so he could field. And then if he had been in the field, he would switch again and throw at the hand. You can't tell me that's some freaking miraculous miracle magic type shit. That's crazy. He's literally got one friggin' hand. And he's pitching in the Major League Baseball. And he was our guy. He was an angel. Yes, he played for New York, and yes, he visited Corey Matthews and the Matthews family in Philadelphia as a Yankee, but that's not my fault. I didn't do that shit. Ironically, on a Disney-owned network, which I think is funnier than hell. But yeah, he was our guy. He was the Angels in a time where our identity was poop. So much love for Jim. One of the nicest people, not athletes, not players, one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Just a tremendously awesome dude. My number 1 will probably never get the nicest guy that ever played the game tag or the nicest guy I've even ever met myself tag, because I've met him more than once. I met him before. Actually, no. I met him right after he was exiled, shall we say. I've met him a couple times since then. I've also even met him after he was officially made a Hall of Famer. Just in WWE, not in Major League. Pete Rose. People are like, you're an LA boy. Okay, again, my dad was born in Cincinnati. We grew up on the Big Red Machine. My brother has a pennant from the 70s Big Red Machine team when they won the World Series up in his house across the way here. The 1990 World Series pennant from the Cincinnati Reds is up in his house. We were Reds fans first and foremost, as far as the boys' side of the house. My mom, Dodgers for life, and it was a rough childhood for her, to say the very least, with dad and his 2 boys. But Pete Rose, again, I was gonna do the Kane quote from the Hall of Fame just to read off the stats. And, oh wait, this is the wrong show for that, but it's not the wrong show for that. It's the absolute right show for that. Greatest hitter ever played the game. Period. He's still a hit king to this day. And people are getting close, ever closer every year, but his stats are ridiculous. And I know, oh, well, he gambled. Well, you know what? With all due respect to everybody I'm going to shit on here, people don't shit on Strawberry, freaking drug addict. People only shit on Bonds, McGuire, and Sosa retroactively. Again, retroactive condemning, mucker futhers, but they are. So if they can be shit on for literally cheating to make their game better and still be considered for a Hall of Fame, even though Clemens got dicked this last year. And again, Roger Clemens, whatever, not always the nicest dude, but he's a Hall of Fame fucking pitcher. And the fact he's not a Hall of Fame is ridiculous to me personally. And that's probably going to be a hot take, get some shit. I really don't care. Pete Rose not being in the Hall of Fame because he gambled during his time as a player and manager. It's like, if that's his worst offense, grow the fuck up, Commissioner. Get over it. Really. He's the favorite player, my favorite player I ever watched. I got to see him play. I got to see him manage. I got to see him not, you know what? I take that back. I was at WrestleMania when he was at one of the WrestleManias because I saw him take a choke slam and a stink face. God damn it, Pete. And not only you take the stink face, he no-sold the motherfucker because he was laughing during the whole. I'm like, Pete, you're on TV. You have an ass in your face and you're smiling. Can we have a little professionalism, Pete? Can we a little bit?
It's Rikishi's big fat Samoan ass. It's not Tori Wilson's.
Yeah. It wasn't he was referee for
No,
the Cat
no
Terry
smiling.
Stinkface. Yeah. It wasn't like he was refereeing the Cat Terry Stinkface match. No, he had Rikishi's thonged. Oh God, no, Pete, that's a bad Pete. I know you're having fun and you love these guys and you're glad to be. You're like Big G. You're happy to be there, but you know what? Samoan ass up in the face. Can we at least sell it? Can we at least sell it, Pete? I love you. I understood
the reference.
I'm glad you understood that reference. You know what? And it was so gratifying to see him get the Hall of Fame induction. He was the reason they. And again, this is going to be like, what the hell? They didn't do it for Cyndi Lauper. They didn't do it for freaking Muhammad Ali. They created the celebrity wing for Pete Rose just to stick it up the commissioner's ass. I think that's a fucking great take for Vince to do. It's like, that's right, I did it. What are you gonna do, Sealy? You shithead. Oh, so good. And then Kane's induction with the stats right up. So funny. So
that was good. I knew Pete Rose was gonna be on your list. I did contemplate putting him on mine, but I knew he would be on yours. I know how much you love Pete.
I love Pete.
So I gave you that moment. He is definitely an honorable mention for me. Like the honorable mention of honorable mentions, because Pete was awesome to watch. Period.
He was fun to watch. You may not like the guy, you may not agree with his stance on a lot of things, but the dude was fun to watch play the game. And that's what this episode's all about.
Yeah. You know, the name of a Kevin Costner movie, for Christ's sakes, For the Love of the Game.
I'm curious about your list now, because this is a non-wrestling week, so it's your turn. And I know that, granted, you tend to shine better on the non-wrestling weeks because you're more knowledgeable, but baseball is not exactly your jam. So I'm curious what we're going to see here.
Baseball has not been my wheelhouse for at least 30, 35 years.
Right.
Like, my parents love to tell stories about young JJ sitting in the living room watching Dodgers baseball on Fox 11.
Oh, jeez.
Vin Scully commentating on the TV screen. And he had his little drawers about this long, two of them, National League, American League. And inside each drawer, with little index cards dividing them, was his baseball cards for every team.
Wow, that's hardcore right there. I dig that.
And while watching the Dodgers games, little JJ would sit there and he'd have the Dodgers lineup in trading card form and whatever team we were playing in trading card form on the other side. And I would literally move the cards around essentially a diamond on the floor while watching the game.
That's awesome. I love that.
Like, I was hardcore baseball back in the day.
That's awesome, man.
And I remember some of it. Obviously, I don't remember all of it. But I remember some of it, and hearing them tell the stories definitely jogs the old noggin in the memory banks. It's like, I kind of remember that, yeah. So my list is very, very reflective on those times. The guys that I would enjoy watching pretty much up until the time when I fell out of love with baseball. I've got a couple people on my list that were way before my time. And I've got one or two that were after my time.
Okay.
One I think was like on the cusp of me falling out of it. And one is within the last 20 years. So it's definitely since beyond my fandom. But when I get there and give my reason behind it, you'll understand why.
Okay.
My number 10 is the one that I feel was right on the cusp of me losing my fandom.
All right.
And he was just such an inspirational guy to watch because he did not let a disability take away from his dream.
Right on.
Jim Abbott, pitcher for the Angels.
I'm so glad we shared Jim. I love Jim. I've always loved Jim. He's such a great guy too.
I mean, you can't really tell there in the picture for those of you youngins that have never heard of Jim Abbott.
Right.
But the hand his glove is on, he basically has like a nub on the end of that hand. He pitches, and then in between the time of his pitch, transfers the glove over to the other hand so he can catch it.
Like I done said earlier, it's ridiculous how he pulled that off. It's crazy.
So amazing to watch.
Oh.
Loved watching Jim pitch.
Yes.
And I noticed that a lot of my players that I had here, I had more pitchers than I thought I would.
Right.
My list, I have 3 known pitchers and one that people forget was a pitcher.
Interesting.
Because they think of him more as a slugger. You know? But Jim Abbott is awesome. I love watching Jim pitch.
I always did. He was cool to meet too. Such a super nice guy.
Like number 9 on my list for the era that I grew up watching was arguably one of those guys that was always in contention for GOAT status. Cal Ripken Jr.
Absolutely.
You know, another one, just a fun guy to watch. And he played the game with heart, soul, passion, long past when he should have been.
Grit.
He just loved getting out there and playing. It's another one, just so fun to watch. I'm not going to go into detail on stats because that's not what it's about for me. For me, it's about how much I enjoyed watching him play. And you knew when Cal Ripken was coming into town, it was going to be a show.
Oh, yeah.
It was going to be a show. Number 8 on my list is a man who, if memory serves me correctly, did have a little bit of controversy surrounding him.
Uh-oh.
And to 90s kids like I was, he became the punchline of a joke in the original Ninja Turtle movie.
Oh, no.
A Jose Canseco bat.
Oh, man.
Tell me you didn't spend money on that. 2-for-1 sale, pal.
But I
mean, you couldn't badmouth Jose when he was in his prime. He was good.
He was.
He was so good, and he was another one that was just fun to watch. He was a character.
Yes.
You know? And I think that's kind of the theme here for me in some of these is they were characters to watch, you know, long before Rodman was doing Rodman things.
Right.
There was Jose Canseco, like for real.
Yeah, pretty much.
While everyone was talking about Bo, you know, doing baseball and football, it's like there was Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire up in Oakland, like for real.
Seriously.
Before Mark came to St. Louis and started having that whole big chase for the home run hitting.
Yup.
Man, Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco went together like peas and carrots. For real. Like, seriously, though, you're laughing, but they were a team. They were Laurel and Hardy. They were Abbott and Costello. You know, they were freaking Magic and Kareem.
Yep.
They were Babe and Gehrig. They were a dynamic duo.
You're right.
And you can hate on Canseco in his later years, but man, when that guy stepped out there to bat, you were taking him serious.
Seriously, his arms are almost as big as my head now. And that's a pretty big accomplishment to pull off. I'm just throwing that out there.
I mean, him and Scotty Steiner could probably have a contest.
Yeah, let's not get those two guys in the same room. Let's just not have that freaking powder keg on the universe. Can we not? Let's not.
As long as Scotty's not doing math, that's all that matters.
Well, the thing is, if Scotty's doing math and they're both still on the roids, we're all going to hell. It's going to be a freaking Armageddon up in that shit. With all due respect to both, of course.
Yeah. So number 7 on my list is the newest entry on my list. And I say new, like he's been active and I kind of noticed him within the last 15 years or so.
Okay.
Okay. He hasn't played a game since 2017. So he's been retired for going on 6 years now.
Okay.
And it's crazy to think that's my newest guy, is a guy that hasn't even played in 6 years. And I discovered him when he was still a baby, essentially.
Okay.
Number 7 for me is Jared Weaver.
Oh, Weaves. Oh, Weaves. Oh, man.
Looking like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Right. Seriously.
But I watched him play at Cal State Long Beach.
Take it back.
Me and Teresa used to work the games over there at Blair Field.
Oh, that's right.
We saw him when he was still in college.
Jesus Christ. That's crazy.
Pitching for the 49ers.
Wow.
And then we would see him there periodically because once he got signed, he would always come back for the alumni games. So even though he was a major leaguer, he would come back every year for about 3 or 4 years there, and we would see him play against the new crop of Cal State. And man, just getting to see someone before they make it, then coming back home to give back. Always loved watching Jared pitch. He was such a cool, down-to-earth guy, too, because when he could have had ego,
right,
he never had ego.
No, Jared was always such a solid dude. Whenever I met him, it was heartbreaking to watch his arm completely lose. I mean, it was devastating to see his pitching abilities just slip away. And it wasn't like he had a disease or got sick. He couldn't do it anymore. You know, they razzed him for the noodle arm, but it's like, man, his arm just had nothing left. It was depressing as a mucker feather to watch because he was so good. He just couldn't get the Angels back to the dance. It was depressing as hell. Especially the Angels.
That's the price you pay as a pitcher. You get to throw in that heat so often, you throw your arm out.
Well, it's like I said about this earlier. It's like, you know, the primary of my list are Angels and Dodgers. Like, Jerry didn't make the list because of my memories are unfortunately are so, as far as his playing time, are so dark because of just how quickly it devolved for him. It was such a shame. But yeah, solid, such a nice person, such a great guy, great with the community. Like you said, a Cal State Long Beach boy, which, you know, I'm not from Long Beach, but being with y'all so long, it's like right there in the heart. So, you know, it's great stuff.
I mean, you've got it branded on you.
It's going to stay somewhere there.
You got the LB on your arm.
There it is. Yep.
You still represent. Number 6 and number 5 are the two from before my time.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of touched on them briefly when I was talking about McGuire and Canseco.
Okay.
But Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth.
Right.
I mean, Lou Gehrig came to my attention through Pride of the Yankees.
Of course.
I had to watch that movie in film class, learn his story, and man, was it such a sad story.
Oh, right.
So heartbreaking.
I mean, yeah, it's oof.
You know, and I'll get to that in the future on Renegades reviews because unfortunately, with taking the hiatus I did, I had to scrap my month of baseball movies that I was going to do during spring training. So that'll be next year.
Right.
But I learned of his story through that. And man, it such a player, such a guy, such a story. I had to have him on my list.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then Babe Ruth, who played himself in that movie,
Right?
because that's how much Lou Gehrig meant to him.
Yep.
That says everything that you need to say about Babe Ruth right there.
Oh,
in
yeah,
my
definitely.
opinion.
I mean,
But
I talked about Babe earlier. Just there was always a comparison when Hulk came back. Hulk's the Babe Ruth of wrestling. It's like there's a reason they say that because Babe Ruth was freaking Babe Ruth. That's what you were talking about earlier. But go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
it's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's all part of the gig here. But Babe Ruth, I mean, arguably the GOAT. Arguably, like,
Absolutely.
he's on that short list of the GOATs in baseball. And I mean, the Sultan of SWAT, the great Bambino. We kind of joked at the start of the show, throwing up that image of Benny the Jet Rodriguez and how we weren't going to be talking about those people. But like the fact that the essence of Babe Ruth played so heavily into the plot of The Sandlot, again, speaks volumes on his name alone.
It does. It really does.
Number 4 for me is another pitcher. And when I was growing up, this man was one of the pitchers that you did not want to see on the roster for starting that day because he was just that damn good. Nolan Ryan.
Again, another one. See, we share so many. I love this, dude. I'm kind of bummed to use an Astros jersey, though. I'm not going to lie.
That's when I saw him and knew him the best, was him with his Astros years.
Yeah, Houston.
So, and I always loved that jersey. Like, it was so simple with just the logo, the star, and the orange on the sleeves there. Like, so simple, but it made a statement. For a kid growing up, watching games in 82, 83, 84, 85, but I mean, like I said, when you got to the field, to the stadium, you did not want to see his name as the starting pitcher.
Nope.
Because you knew you were in for a bad time. Not to say that he couldn't be beaten, not to say that people couldn't hit his pitches, but it was just one of those things. You did not want to see his name on the sheet.
Yeah, I mean, 7 no-hitters in one career, like I said earlier, is no joke.
No.
So,
it's like going in the Reign of Terror, walking into the arena and seeing you're up against Hunter. Like, no, because I know I'm not going to win.
No. It's funny. I didn't make this comparison earlier when I talked about Nolan, but I think it's walking into a WCW arena and you're going to face Vader. It's like, I retire. I'm good. Thanks. I quit.
Retire or lose part of your ear, your choice.
Yeah, or break your back, or separate your shoulder, or depending on who you are. Foley's just the craziest of them all because he's made freaking Foley.
And now we get to my top 3.
Yeah, baby.
And number 3 was just another one that was fun to watch, man. And it didn't matter what team he played for, although I have him in our home jersey. But Reggie Jackson.
Mr. October, baby.
love watching Reggie Jackson, man. Like you said, Mr. October, Reggie Jackson was Justin Williams, God damn it.
That's right.
Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7, Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. Like, you did not want to mess with them when it came to crunch time.
No. Playoffs.
You didn't want to mess with them the rest of the year, but you definitely didn't want to F with them come crunch time.
Nope.
Because you knew it was on and popping.
There you go.
And Reggie is my last angel for the record. I mean, you see, I had 3 angels so far and yet to throw a Dodger up there.
You did. This is true. This is true.
So I know that's probably shocking a lot of people considering I was talking about watching the Dodger games. Because, I mean, I made this joke with Jeff off the air, but for those of you that go back and watch our top 10 Christmas songs list, and how Jeff joked that he could just list 10 to 1 the songs on the Gatlin album and call it a day and be lazy. I could have just done 10 to 1 Dodgers and called it a day.
Very
and
true.
been super lazy, especially those years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Especially those years, man. And I'll get into more about that in a minute because, spoiler alert, number 1 is a Dodger, but
well, there you go.
I could totally have just done that.
Right.
But I tried to branch out. I tried to be different, which is what brings me to my number 2. Because next to my number 1, number 2 was my favorite to watch. Period, bar none.
All right.
Like, so much so that when I would go out and play softball, baseball, I would mimic his stance and the way that he held his bat. Dale Murphy from the Atlanta Braves.
Whoa, God, reaching it back. I dig that.
I loved watching some Dale Murphy.
Gosh.
The way he would come at the plate and he would always kind of keep his bat moving. Like he never stopped, whether it was side to side or he'd have a rotation going like this. Like he always kept it in motion so that when he was ready, that swing was just kinetic.
That's great.
I never had to go from a standstill to a swing. He always had that bat in motion. Loved watching Murphy.
That's friggin' awesome. I love that shit. That's great.
Which brings me to my number 1.
Which is a Dodger, as you mentioned.
Yes. He was a Dodger for the majority of his career. He did take a trip down south and play for the Padres for a little bit. Towards the end of his tenure.
Okay.
But anybody that knew me growing up knew how much that I loved Steve Garvey.
Ah, Steve. My mom's favorite Dodger ever.
Mine too. I don't know where it is, but I had a baseball to Jerry, happy 7th, Steve Garvey.
God, dude, that's freaking awesome.
And a picture of me and my mom. Kind of looked like it was either really cold or maybe even raining that day.
Oh, wow.
We met him and got that signed.
That's crazy. That's too cool, man. I love Steve. He's such a solid dude. I love him.
But I mean, you think of that era of Dodgers and Steve Garvey, Steve Yeager, Mike Scioscia.
I mentioned Scioscia earlier.
Valenzuela, Bill Russell, Ron Say, Davey Lopez, Oral Hershiser. There's 8 right there, God damn it.
That's it.
There's 8, and I know I'm forgetting some. But Jesus Christ, like our team was loaded.
Exactly. They were. They really were.
It would have been so easy to just do that. And then, okay, Reggie and Weaver, I'm done. Because I had to get Weaver. Seeing him come from nothing to stardom, he had to be a spot on my list. Steve Garvey back then was my boy. I loved
Absolutely.
Garvey. My mom loved Jaeger.
Love it, brother. I love that. That's
6 and 7, baby, right there.
That's it. Oh, too freaking cool. I love that. I love your list, man. I'm so glad we did this one. I'm glad we did this way. I'm glad we did it this
I
way.
am too. I
And
am
then
too, because when
just
you
do
first
stats, you
threw it
know?
out there, I was like, man, this so is not my wheelhouse anymore. This is going to be hard. But then
Yeah.
I got Steve Garvey, I got Dale Murphy. Those were my first two.
Right.
And I was like, okay, where do I go from here? It's like, and they just started to fall into place like dominoes. You
Right.
push that first one and they all just start to fall.
Exactly.
And that's kind of just what happened with this with me is I had Garfey, I had Murphy, then I had Reggie, then I had Jared, then I had Canseco. It was like, you know, they're all starting to fall into place. Then it's like, okay, now where do I rank them?
Right. The hardest part is ranking these guys. Always.
For real. But I mean, it became so much easier than I thought it would be. And when I saw how easy it was becoming, I knew this was going to be fun.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to be a fun one. And quite possibly our shortest show in forever.
Right. Because it didn't take me very long either. So, yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, dude, I've barely been talking for a half hour.
Yeah.
This is going to be insanely quick, but god damn if this wasn't a fun one.
Yeah. And what's really cool about having a fun one be the non-wrestling one, which doesn't happen a whole lot because one of us usually struggles on the non-wrestling one. So, like I said, I had a great time. Like I said, we had more in common than I thought we did, which I think is super, super cool because, like I said, baseball hasn't been your wheelhouse for a hot minute. So it's cool that we have, because we both grew up being fans of old baseball, which 80s baseball, 90s baseball. That's we were kids. So
but by the time I was starting to fall out of baseball was the time you were like being born. Like
right.
You were like 2 or 3 years old when I was starting to fall out of baseball.
Right,
like,
which is why
so there's that passing of the guard right there, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
It was like
I said,
Abbott
I was
Weaver
surprised
are
you
the
mentioned
most
Jim.
recent guys on my list.
Yeah, I was surprised you mentioned Jim. I really was, because I didn't expect you to have been a fan at that point still. So it was cool to see Jim Abbott on our list.
How could you not be a fan of Jim, though?
Well,
It's one of those. It's one of those things where even if you're not following it intensely,
right.
You hear about something and you've got to see it.
Yeah.
I hate to take it to a sore subject for us or an emotional subject, but it's like when Brian got into the ring and retired.
Right.
I wasn't watching wrestling full time at that point, but I heard that it was going to happen, and I had to tune in. I had to see this. I wasn't the biggest baseball fan when Jim Abbott was pitching, but you hear about this guy with one arm that is living his dreams out there, and you've got to watch it.
Got to see it happen.
So then you start tuning in more and more to see how successful he is.
Yep.
And even though I wasn't the biggest fan back then, I would still occasionally go to the random game, especially if I could get a freeway series.
Right, exactly.
And usually the freeway series, you want to pull out the heavy hitters. Jim Abbott was a heavy hitter because he was so good, despite his disability.
Yeah, he's one of the best pitchers I've seen, period. Not just, he's a great pitcher in spite of. He was a great damn pitcher.
Yeah.
And like I said, my list was pitcher heavy. I mean, I had the guys I had. I had Ruth. I had Jim Abbott. I had Nolan Ryan. I had those guys. So, it's just one of those, the pitchers definitely bring the people into the houses without question. But it was very cool for me to see that we had the ones we had in common, because like I said, you were falling out of love as I was really starting to come into my own as a person, let alone a baseball fan. But, like you said, how can you not love somebody like Jim Abbott overcoming shit like that? The only bad part about Jim Abbott, his whole career, and I mentioned this earlier, was the fact that he was on Boy Meets World as a Yankee. I was like, ugh. Other than that, I love it. But
Honorable
again,
mention for me.
yes.
Another pitcher. I just didn't dig up the image for him. Again, past my prime, past the Jim Abbott era even, but Hideo Nomo from the
Yeah.
Dodgers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one who, even though I wasn't really into it, my mom's neighbors were big baseball fans. And so sometimes we'd go to the game with them and I would see Nomo pitch from time to time.
Yep.
And he was another one that was just a stellar pitcher.
He was a spectacle to watch. And he was so low key as a person, but just fun to watch, like you said, man. It made it fun to go out there to Ravine and watch him do his thing. So
yeah. As the sun sets on us from Chavez Ravine,
yes.
What did you guys think of our top 10 baseball players? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this one because, dare I say, for the longest time, this is one of our most subjective.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially when it comes to the non-wrestling.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah.
This is definitely going to, because there's, what do you go off of? Do you go by stats?
Which is my original intention.
Impact.
Right.
Or do you just say fuck it and go for what I did and go for your favorites?
Which is exactly what, it's
you
do what you gotta do, man.
What is your criteria? Who did we miss? Let us know. If you're watching the premiere live, leave your thoughts and comments over there next to Jeff. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down there underneath the fans in attendance.
That's right.
In 2 weeks, we will be back right here on another brand new installment of the Dads, Not Always on Wrestling, where we get back to wrestling and we discuss the top 10 Backlash matches. That should be very, very fun. That was another one that was really, really easy for me.
Yes.
Once I sat down and I started typing out my first couple, that just fell into play perfectly.
Exactly.
And as y'all,
I was going to say, you have your giveaway. Yeah.
I was going to say, and as y'all know that have been paying attention, I am doing a giveaway. Now, it is possible that by the time this episode airs, someone has already made the correct guess. If not, you have the chance to win this Miz and Morrison 2-pack. Hercules Reborn DVD starring John Morrison. The Marine 3 Homefront DVD Blu-ray combo starring Mike the Miz Mizanin. All you have to do is guess what my favorite Backlash match is. And those of you that have been following the channel for years and years should know this. If you are affiliated with the Casa D18 Studios or the Jeff Meacham Network, you may not enter. Because those of you that are affiliated should know no problem. Exception maybe being Greg and Big G, because they haven't known me as long as other people have. But if I eliminate certain people affiliated with the networks, gotta eliminate everybody affiliated with the networks. So if you are a fan non-affiliated with the Casa D18 Studios or the Jeff Meacham Network, meaning that you do not have shows that appear on the channels, you may enter. First one to get it right wins this 2-pack.
And for the record, even though we're recording all 3 April episodes the same day, you have until the show goes live on the 29th in 2 weeks. So
that's right.
A lot of time, kids.
A lot of time.
Lot. That's it.
So, for the West Coast Professor Jeff Meacham, I am the Renegade JJ Williams. Thank you for joining us today, baseball fans. As we said, as the sun sets on Chavez Ravine, and we will see you guys next time right here on the Jeff Meacham Network in the Casa D18 Studios. Thank you.